Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Those that are here in the room, those that may be watching online or reviewing the tape later. We're returning from recess that was called this morning to consider a couple of land use items. The time is now 1 p.m. Amanda, could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Richardson?
Here.
Commissioner Thayer?
Here.
Commissioner Schroeder?
Here.
Alrighty, thank you. We have a quorum. So today we've got scheduled 2 applications for hearing. The first is a request for an amendment to the PUD, or the Planned Unit Development zoning for the Independence community. The second is a request for several new and amended Metro District service plans. For each of these hearings, the sequence of events will be generally the same. The staff will present an overview of the application. That'll also include the recommendations that are coming to us from the Planning Commission. The applicant will present additional information if desired to fully describe the details of the application. While the staff and applicant are presenting, we may have questions for them during that time. Once the applicant is presented and any questions we may have for them or staff are answered, we'll open the floor for public comment. Once we get to public comment, I've got a few rules of the road for all of us just to keep the hearing moving along. After public comment, we'll ask the staff and the applicant to address issues that the public have raised, and we'll very likely have some questions of our own. Once this is complete for each application, and we'll take them in sequence, the board may vote to approve an application, approve it with conditions, disapprove, or if we feel we need more information before we can make a decision, we may continue a hearing. Based on the volume of material that we do have and likely the length of public comment, we may not be able to hear both applications fully today. We'll try to finish up at 5 p.m. today. If there's seems like a natural break coming shortly after 5, we may push that a little bit. But if continued, we plan to reconvene at the same location tomorrow at 1 p.m. to finish consideration. If you have to leave the room at any time for a comfort break, please try to kind of slip out without interrupting the proceedings. If you got any conversations you need to have, please do take them outside. We'll plan to take a break about 60 to 90 minutes into it. Amanda, if I get focused on what we're doing, wave and make me stop, or if, and I would just let folks know there's only one bathroom for male and female on each floor, so, if there's a line, you can drop down a floor or two. Would just say it's the responsibility of the board to provide a fair hearing for all involved and ensure due process and make decisions on these applications based on their ability to meet statute and local regulations. Do appreciate, and we all do, the input that we received via email prior to the hearing. We've had the opportunity to review all of that. Items that came in after the board package was published were collected by the clerk and the director of CDS. Those were provided to us as well. So pretty much anything that was sent up to yesterday evening, we have in front of us to consider. Again, the first item up is it's a rezoning hearing. It's considered to be a quasi-judicial hearing. Essentially, we act as a judge in a courtroom. We can only consider what's been presented to us to decide on, whether in the packet or through testimony today. And then just kind of a note as we go through that this is rezoning. Nothing in this hearing authorizes further subdivision or platting of the development. We're only considering changes to approved uses essentially on the property. So with that, I would accept a motion to open public hearing on the first item.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we open the hearing on Bandera East PUD and Bandera West PUD, amendment to the Independence PUD.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to open public hearing on the PUD amendment to Bandera East and Bandera West PUD, to the Independence PUD. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries, so we're in public hearing. So first up, Greg Thompson, our CDS Director. If you could present the application, please.
Thank you. I am Greg Thompson, and I am the CDS Director. This particular project, where I'm going to start the conversation with where this has been basically so far in the county's process. The county's process starts out with a pre-application meeting with a variety of staff members. So an application, this is before an application comes in, we give them good guidance and try to understand what's going on in terms of what their interests are in the project and how they'd like to adjust that. Following that, a community meeting was held, and then the applicant submitted the required documents. We go through all those documents, make sure we have everything that we need before we route it out to referral agencies. Referrals like fire department, sheriff, road and bridge, that type of thing, review the application. They offer their thoughts and comments, any concerns that they might have, and forward that along. The applicant works to resolve those issues. We kind of do that back and forth until such time as it's ready to go forward to the public hearing. Notice is provided, gets scheduled before the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. Planning Commission offers a recommendation to the board, and then the board, where we are today, either approves or denies the proposal, perhaps with conditions, or could continue the proposal as well. Hearing dates, the Planning Commission originally heard this on December 6th, 2022. They continued that to January 17th. There was a snowstorm that day, so it ended up being actually heard and completed finally on January 24th of this year. The board originally was scheduled to hear this on January 25th, but because it got moved through Planning Commission, it was then continued to today, March 8th. From a notice standpoint, there are a variety of notices that go out. I mentioned the community meeting that's kind of early in the process that allows people to understand what's going on with proposal. Specific notice of those meetings that I just mentioned. There's a newspaper notice that's required to go out, sign on the property is required, and then letters to surrounding property owners are also provided, and that's within a quarter mile of the site. The notice meets code requirements. To orient you to the site, the property is northeast of County Road 158 and Elbert Road. Elbert Road's not actually shown on there because it doesn't exist right now, but that's the western property, the area that's identified as the site. Aerial, very top there, it's a little difficult to tell, but that red line is Singing Hills Road or County Road 166. The blue area there is generally the subject property. You can start to begin to see some of the areas that are already begun to be developed. So filing 1 is being developed there on the far southeast corner of the site. There's 2 other filings in there as well that are platted. I realize it's difficult to see. I'll get you another one here that'll be a little bit easier. The zoning on the property is PUD, or planned unit development. Typically a planned unit development is something that has some variation to code. They've proposed to do a planned unit development because for some reason they don't want to do this or that the code requires, so they've proposed some adjustments to that. The property is already zoned PUD. A variety of adjustments have been provided as part of the Bandera East and West PUD. This shows in that southeast corner, that first filing that's already been developed, streets in place, homes in place. There's probably still construction going on there. Filings 2 and 3 are immediately west and northwest of that area. Those are recorded plats. Those I don't believe have construction on them yet. Maybe they're just begun. Give you a little bit of background. This is how Bandera laid out on the property. It's a different configuration than what is being developed right now and what's being proposed to be developed. This had a fair amount, what was originally approved had more connectivity, had larger lots as well, less open space. This shows both Bandera East and West. Notice the Spine Road, Hancock Parkway that runs through the middle of the site. If I go back one slide, that same road is shown generally in the same location. So I talked a little bit about the existing platted area. Filings 1, 2, and 3 are shown a little more clearly here. Southeast is filing 1 that's being built out. Fair amount more open space and area that's undeveloped between those individual filings and subdivided areas. The site plan that is proposed with this PUD is shown here. Again, that Spine Road, Hancock Parkway kind of running through the middle of the site there, showing filings 1, 2, and 3, and then kind of planned filings as well, how they expect those areas to develop in the future. Note as part of this application in the far southwest corner of the site, there are a couple of areas that are identified as commercial. They've talked about having 16 acres of commercial, and then the blue area is a school site. That's anticipated to go in that location. The applicant for this application is Jim Yates on behalf of CB Independence Holding Company. Location we've identified as northeast of County Road 158 and Elbert Road. The site size is about 1,011 acres, almost 12. This particular PUD amendment, let me go back just a minute here. I'll make sure we understand this. So that first filing in the southeast corner, all the lots that are associated with that would not be subject to this PUD amendment. They've already been approved and in many respects built under the existing Bandera East. So those individual lots would not be subject to the changes we're talking about here. They've been built under that old one. So wanted to make sure that you understood that. Zoning, as we talked about, is PUD. That's the existing zoning on the property and the proposed zoning as well. They're modifying some of the conditions and elements that are part of that PUD. So their request is something that goes for public hearings before a Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners for a PUD change. They're interested in combining the two PUDs, the Bandera East and West, into one PUD, which is Independence. Some of the parameters of that, things that they're proposing to make that happen, would be to increase the amount of open space from about 42% to 50%, increase the residential units from 920 to 1,400, and provide that 16 acres of commercial. It's in the southwest corner of the property. So your task and job really is to review these proposed changes in relation to the zoning code requirements and criteria that we have in our code. That's, there's 6 of these or so that you compare what they're proposing to. So the first criteria for you to review is whether the proposed rezoning conforms to and is consistent with the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. In reviewing it, staff and Planning Commission found that there were a variety of policies that this proposal meets, including residential ones that deal with roads, preservation of open space, and providing clustered residential uses, and then schools, commercial policies that deal with road access and water and sewer, and then community resources as well that deal with paved roads and water conservation. The second criteria is whether the proposed rezoning is compatible with surrounding land uses. I'm going to flip back a couple of slides here for just a moment. This zoning map shows, in some respects, the surrounding zoning, but also the uses in the area. To the north, and to the east is agriculturally zoned area, basically large lot, residential and or ag developed property. There are some subdivisions that are to the south of the site that are, and I didn't look up the size on these, I have some smaller ones, maybe 5 and 10 acre parcels in that general area. Douglas County is immediately across where Delbert Road would be to the west. So the next criteria is whether that proposed rezoning is compatible with surrounding land uses. I think in many respects, the question of whether or not there should be smaller lot residential on this property has been answered. Bandera East and West has already been approved. It's been developing. There are 920 residential uses that are already approved on that property. The surrounding uses with those kind of agricultural and residential existing subdivisions, this appears to be compatible with that. In the introduction of commercial in that northeast corner of County Road 1 and 158 is a logical location for that as well. So it appears to be compatible with the surrounding land uses. The third criteria is whether the proposed rezoning would adversely impact the provision of public services. The site has already approved existing and functioning water and sewer facilities. They have special districts that maintain that at a relatively higher level than you might see with an individual agricultural lot, because they're designed to provide that for many more lots and properties that would be developed. So they have an existing kind of overlying water and sewer district. They also have metropolitan districts that help provide services to that site. So the rezoning would not adversely impact that. The fourth criteria is whether the proposed rezoning would adversely impact the environment. Fifth one is whether the proposed rezoning would create unreasonable traffic congestion or burden the existing road system without improvements. There are a variety of improvements that have been proposed as part of the original approval for the site, as well as for this approval, including repaving County Road 158, connecting Delbert Road from 158 up to 166 as well. Excuse me. Sixth one is whether the proposed rezoning will not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of the inhabitants, present and future, of Elbert County. In all circumstances, the Planning Commission found the proposal complied with the review criteria. Their findings include that the proposed rezoning conforms to the comprehensive plan policies that were identified and discussed. The rezoning is compatible with the surrounding land uses. The rezoning would not adversely impact the provision of public services. The proposed rezoning would not adversely impact the environment. The rezoning would not create unreasonable traffic congestion or burden the existing road system without improvements. The proposed rezoning would not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare. They offered conditional approval of the requested PUD amendment. There were 6 conditions that they provided as well. First is kind of a standard one, that the signs on the property be removed within 7 days of approval, if that of the decision by the Board of County Commissioners. The PUD would not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the PUD zoning exhibit is recorded. In talking with the applicant and looking at some of these conditions, it may make some sense to modify that condition a little bit, maybe make it just conditions 1 through 4 are met. We'll get to 5 and 6 here and you'll see why. Number 3, the third condition is recordation of, documentation of this occurs within 180 days. Again, kind of a standard condition. The fourth one is the applicant shall amend the PUD exhibit to include the plan to access to the adjacent property to the north as well as add the existing east-west right-of-way on the northern property line. So in review of this application and another application on the property, there's an existing right-of-way that runs east-west along that north property line, which is a section line, which might be able to provide some additional access kind of in that more interior area between County Road 158 on the south and 166 on the north. Additionally, there is, as part of the Bandera project, there was a north-south road that connected through about where this fourth filing might be. It's not shown as part of their PUD. It makes sense because it's been shown as part of that to include that. So we want to make sure that that does get included. The property owners immediately north of there have come in and have at least had initial conversations with staff about potentially developing that property. So providing good connectivity to that would be appropriate. The fifth condition is the applicant would be required to repave County Road 158 between County Road 1, which is Delbert Road, and County Road 13. That was the original condition that came from Planning Commission. In thinking about that and having some additional conversations, it might make some sense to put in a time frame for that. We added within 15 months of any approval. Kind of the initial thought was, a year might make some sense, but if we have another really cold winter, it might be kind of hard to be laying asphalt down in the middle of February and March next year. So if we add a few extra months beyond that year, that might make some sense. The sixth condition is, in addition to existing obligations regarding County Road 1, the applicant will be required to construct County Road 1 between County Road 5, which is that Hancock Parkway, and County Road 158. Let me show you a quick map of that so that's clear for you. Right now, they're obligated to provide, if you can see Hancock Parkway kind of in the background, they're obligated to put in Delbert Road north of Hancock Parkway up to County Road 166, where that red line is along the very top. As part of this application, they would complete Delbert Road from Hancock Parkway south to 158. And I'm pointing at it on my screen here and you can't see it, and I don't have my little red laser pointer either, so apologize. But suffice to say, they're required to do about 1.25 miles right now. With this application, they would do about 3/4 miles more. That involves coordination with Douglas County because it straddles that Douglas County line. So that's the 6 conditions. I'd be happy to talk about those a little bit further if you would like. That's the staff presentation. The applicant is here as well.
Thank you. Thanks. Do you have any questions for staff at this time? No, I would wait until after. Okay. Yeah, just one for you, Greg. The modification, the paving of 158 within 15 months, has that been discussed with the applicant?
It has.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Alrighty. Yeah, I just would invite, if the applicant comes up, there's a few things based on the public input we received to date that I do hope you cover. If it's not part of the presentation already, we'll, but kind of an overview of where you're at in the current development, how many homes, how many residents, where we're at in the completion of the County Road 5 extension up to Singing Hills. And I guess the other that's come up a few times is the status of the re-permitting of the Dawson Wells in the vicinity of the homestead. It's kind of background and outside, but I think it helps give us some context. Obviously, what are the traffic impacts? How do you envision them being addressed? Your availability of water in the discussion of open space. It's, kind of premature to subdivision, but just fire mitigation and thought. There's been quite a bit of discussion on those, and I'm sure on the design side across the state after the Marshall Fire. A bit on the decision behind expanding and moving the school lot. that's proposed, and kind of what do you envision in the commercial area? Like I said, I don't want to, if those are already part, that's fine. If you want to address those, anything additional at the end, that's fine as well. And, is there anything specific you'd like the applicant to address? Grant, or anything specific you'd like to address while they're...
Yeah, I'd like to get a sense of timing and triggers of when certain aspects have to be brought to the top of the table and implemented.
Okay.
That's enough to load you up with to start.
Good for me to jump in?
So the
Can
time
you
is
hear me all
yours,
right?
sir.
Okay. Yeah, so I think we're addressing most of those in the presentation, and I tried to jot down as you were going through that list. If I miss anything, obviously, you know, let us know and we'll back it up. Can you go to the next? I feel like I'm too close to that. So I'm Jim Yates with Kraft Companies. I'm here with Brian Connolly from Otten Johnson, Mark Kiefer from Norse Design. So we have a little bit different vicinity map here just to kind of show you how we fit in with the county comp plan. And there's a little bit of a quote there. I know that's hard to read, but it basically says that the expectation is a majority of the western part of the county, and this is kind of a quote out of the comp plan, really shows that this is where we're at. We're on the western edge. We're kind of in that northwest quadrant. We added to that in the yellow lines the EDZ areas that have been designated by the county as well. So that really shows that we're kind of in the heart of where this growth has been directed. The commercial fits into kind of that little bit of EDZ zone along 158. And again, the commercial, I can touch on that a little bit. It's added in zoning. We don't have specific vendors. We don't have specific occupants to come in at this point. I think that is down the road a little bit as we kind of work from the east side of the project to the west. I think, as you know, it would take more rooftops to kind of attract businesses into that, quite frankly, at this point. But it's intended to be kind of neighborhood convenience retail. It is not a destination retail. It's not like a large grocery store. It would be smaller shops. It'd be a coffee shop. It would be things like that would kind of be compatible with neighborhood uses. With that, the school site, we worked with the Elbert County School Superintendent, the prior one, Douglas, and really looked at access. I think sometimes when you put schools too far internal into neighborhoods, then you end up with traffic issues and picking up and dropping off. And this school site could serve outside of the community. So it's not just our community, there's people coming in. So there'll be a kind of a right in, right out onto 158, as well as the Delbert connection down there. So you can kind of form a loop around that site and circulate traffic through that. And the same within our community, you'll be able to kind of loop and cycle traffic through. And that's a pretty big consideration for schools, especially the days of kids walking to school are kind of behind us a little bit. So a lot of parents want to drop their kids off. So if you want to go to the next slide, please. So this is kind of a little bit of a status update of the community. As you know, we're a conservation community. We do cluster our homes. You see the bottom left, there's a lot of open space around it. We push the houses together. We put the open spaces clustered that provides access for all of those houses, either adjacency or a block or two off of, to get to trails. The habitat really is improved a lot. We've been working with the Butterfly Pavilion on kind of our pollinator process out there, and their report just after a single year really showed a lot of improvement in these open space areas for the habitat. So that's kind of how this process goes through for us. In addition to that, we do kind of weave in dark sky components but we balance that with lighting at intersections, you know, for safety and things like that. So there is a little bit of that. We use only LED lights that are downward directed and, you know, kind of following those basic principles of that. We could probably go to the next slide. Let me make sure I'm checking your list here. As far as you were asking about the Dawson well, I believe that is, actually, can you go back one there a little bit? That's on the bottom right-hand side at the Homestead site. That was the original well site. That is not a part of our municipal system. It will not feed the pool house. We are making updates to the Victorian home. That's been ongoing for several years now, but we're getting to the interior of it this year. And then just to the left of where that picture is at is the pool house coming in. There's a dog park coming in this spring. All of those things are kind of in process now. We do have some gardens that are just west of the Victorian house that we're working with Denver Urban Garden Group to kind of activate that and program it. We had contemplated at one point maybe using that existing well site for the gardens just to kind of show more educationally that this water goes into the ground, you grow things, kind of, you know, some of that kind of stuff. I don't know if we'll ultimately do that or not, but none of the structures that are hooked up to the municipal system are pulling off of that well in there. I think that's good. So if you want to go to the next slide, and then I'll. So kind of the last comment, you know, where are we at today? We have about 225 homes that are occupied. We had sales of 240 through the end of 2022. We have about 75 in the ground right now under construction, obviously some of which are sold and some are not. Our sales prior to the summer of 2022, so up through June of 2022, we were averaging 11 to 12 a month. Since then, we're averaging about 9 a month. So we have slowed down a little bit, but it still is pretty validating of the community that we're selling homes, we're moving homes. Life to date, about 44% of those homes were under 600,000, so they were in the 400s and 500,000s. And so again, I think that just shows a good mix of product out there. Not all homes are kind of in the first-time buyer market. Some are first-time move-up, second-time move-up. We have some that are above 800,000, but primarily a good mix of lot sizes, product types. We're bringing in 2 new builders in our filings 2 and 3, and as Greg had indicated, we are doing development on those filings that were approved. We have not started vertical homes yet, but we're actually pretty close to getting models started here, you know, within the next month or so. So we'll be bringing in new product, new homes, some of those kind of things. We hold a number of events with the residents. We have a good mix of families, like young families, military. We have a few firefighters, service professionals, so kind of a good broad mix of people, and then active adults kind of coming back in on that side. And that really drives those price point variations as well in there. So with that, and I guess the last thing kind of to that point with the residents, we have set up a number of mechanisms to kind of communicate with the residents. We have a resident advisory committee that we meet with and we get feedback. We have a website, email addresses, phone numbers, both to the district and to the developer on just getting that feedback and you know, input as to, you know, we have Pocket Park down on the bottom left-hand side. There's 2 of those right now, and then the Homestead is kind of the larger gathering, more civic area. That will continue as we go west into new filings. Each filing will have its own set of more localized, smaller assets. And really the big asset is the open space. You know, there's 500 acres of open space that will have trails and connectivity in there. That get close? Okay. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mark Kiefer, who will kind of get into the details of the application.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for this time. Members of the commission, my name is Mark Kiefer. I'm with Norris Design, the land planner for this project. Greg, can we get the next slide? I wanted to first acknowledge your staff because we've worked diligently with them from Greg's office, Rory, Art, the whole group, including your former staff, at the clerk and recorder's office. They were very helpful too in terms of procuring documents that were required in this process. That being said, this whole endeavor leading up to today has taken a little over 2 years now in terms of planning, design, and getting this ready for this hearing. So the process probably started back in 2020 when the initial meetings started about what are the requirements for future infrastructure and needs for this part of Elbert County. So a lot of the conversations that even just were precursors to the whole planning effort were really what are the infrastructure issues that needed to be dealt with immediately, as well as dealing with the school district and what their needs are in the process as well. So you can see that a lot of that time initially had been devoted to really just understanding, what needs to happen right now, what needs to happen for this project to move forward, but also establishing a strong partnership with all the various entities out there, including the fire district, school district, and your staff to get this where we are right now. I think Greg Thompson earlier has pretty much nailed most of the presentation I was going to cover here in terms of the process, but just to recap some of the things that he had mentioned, a lot of this process, a lot of these endeavors really involve community outreach. We've had community meetings. We had a concept briefing with the commissioners at the time. That was back in February of last year. And then our community meetings and also some other outreach that we've endeavored with some of the neighbors out there as well, including our residents that exist in Filing 1. So again, it leads up to today, which is our final hearing, hopefully our hearing for approval for the PUD amendment. And if I can get the next slide, Greg. Our request, just to summarize again, a lot of what Mr. Thompson has described earlier, we're here to really look at three specific issues. One is first amend the PUD. The purpose for that is to expand what we think is a very successful building program right now with our community. The success that we've seen in Filing 1, as Jim had just mentioned, the growth and demand that has happened in that area, I would say is unprecedented for this part of the Front Range. So that model right now is a very viable economic program that we would like to replicate through the rest of this project. So in that regard, we're wanting to grow this project from 920 existing dwelling units that were approved in the Bandera East and West PUDs to about 1,400 units now. That really further defines the whole project, and again, replicating that model that we've had within Filing 1, the same type of product and the same type of development program with our builders that have really grown to appreciate that particular market share. Also, secondly, I should say, we want to include a commercial component to the Bandera PUDs that did not exist before. Independence now is allowing for a larger opportunity for neighborhood commercial. But in addition to that, I think Jim had mentioned, or Greg rather, in his earlier conversation, we are looking at a small neighborhood commercial area in the southwest corner of the project that basically caters to area residents, not just our residents, but residents within the rest of Elbert County. But also, we'd also like to expand that into a coffee shop, for example. the Homestead Park site that Jim had just mentioned, one of the great opportunities that we see in that area is to just have a small mom and pop coffee shop in that area that really does serve the community and area residents as well. That really kind of defines community. It helps reinforcing that whole neighborhood feeling, and it allows people to socialize and really identify with the places that they live, the neighborhoods they live in. And then thirdly, it's really to expand what we are planning right now in terms of community amenities. We have a larger, extensive plan for parks and trails in this project that didn't exist before. I think when Greg had pulled up that original Bandera PUD, you'll see that that was somewhat of a hodgepodge of a lot of different roads. It was very dense in terms of roadway networks and everything else. And the parks really didn't serve much more than just those little neighborhood areas. What we're proposing right now with this Independence PUD amendment are larger, more concentrated park plans and trails that not only, again, benefit our neighbors or our residents, but would be extended out to the area. Next slide, Greg. Just why this request is timely right now. I touched on a couple issues, but we believe that this request provides for a well-rounded community for this region and for Elbert County as a whole. We work with numerous referral agencies, including fire, sheriff, schools, to ensure they fully support and understand the program that we're talking about today, and ask for their partnership in this process. We also believe that Elbert County residents would benefit by having additional retail and business opportunities close by. As I described, these are small neighborhood type retail opportunities, but again, sorely missing in this area, and the number of rooftops that exist today really would demand that type of use, but as we grow in Independence, I think it's going to increase that demand as well. We also see that Elbert County would be the beneficiary of some additional revenue from this type of development. Certainly there are costs associated with this project, but overall I think that this really sets up a good economic model for Elbert County to continue to grow. And then we also feel like this type of project really expands housing opportunities within Elbert County and creates a broader range of folks, opportunities to move into this area. And, you know, as Jim had mentioned, the types of people we have seen moving into Independence right now, filing one, you know, include service providers, military, people like that. And I think that this really will expand over the course of the development of this project. So the other thing that we believe too is that this request will expedite needed county road improvements that are currently out there today. And I just wanted to touch on a couple of those real quick. I think that overall, by expediting these improvements, we believe that commute times, and our traffic study proves this out, that will be decreased over time for area residents, and again, not just benefiting our new residents, but also Elbert County residents as a whole. It also allows for benefits to emergency service providers, getting to events quicker, things like that with the expansion and extension of Delbert Road, County Road 1, for example, things like that. So I think that that's a very positive benefit for the area. And then also with some of these other improvements we'll be talking about shortly, it extends the lifetime and utility of those existing roadways like County Road 158. Greg, can I get the next slide, please? This is a real quick comparison analysis of the old plans, the old Bandera PUDs and the new Independence plan. I just want to touch on a couple things on this chart because I'll be elaborating on some of the specifics in the subsequent slides. But we are increasing our open space requirement from the existing 42.5% that exists in the Bandera PUDs to 50%. That's a commitment that we've made from the very beginning in this process. We've also increased the size of the school district. The original school site rather, this original school site on the Bandera property, which was a commitment that was made some time ago, was for 14.6 acres, and now we're expanding that up to a 25-acre site. The plans for that particular school site have not been defined yet, but it gives the district a lot of opportunity and flexibility for outdoor playgrounds, for the type of schools that they would want to see there. We're just allowing them or giving them the property to look at their future planning. So with that, I just want to go back. I'm going to cover a couple of these points in the next subsequent slides, if I can get the next slide, Greg. So as I probably didn't point out very clearly on that matrix, but one of the major components of this planning effort had been to look at what offsite and existing infrastructure is needed to support this type of development. 2 points I want to emphasize here too, before I talk about the specifics here. This request will not reduce any existing infrastructure commitments that have been made in the past, meaning that from the time that we started the original preliminary plan for filing 1 to now, those commitments are intact. Those are not renegotiated or retraded in any form. The second point is that this PUD amendment would obligate us, the developer, to build additional improvements, and including the extension, the final completion of County Road 1, Elbert Road, from County Road 158 to what's referred to here as Hancock Road or County Road 5. So that's the missing link that really exists today. The other thing that, and you'll see on the blue area, the blue lines, the blue dash lines, those are the new commitments that are raised within this PUD amendment and was described briefly by Greg in the the conditions of approval. County Road 158 rather, that extension, that improvement includes an overlay and improvement all the way to County Road 13, approximately a half a mile east of our property as well. So that's just a quick summary in terms of what we have done so far in terms of those specific commitments that are part of this particular application. If I can get the next slide, Greg. I just wanted to also just show, one of the questions that has always come up, and it came up at the Planning Commission, is how can we add more units and more open space at the same time? That is, it's certainly a very understandable question, something that, probably is more, it's a planning related issue, but it goes to the heart of the whole conservation notion of land on this particular project. What we are doing right now, and it is the model that was established in filing 1, we have established these lots, dimensions, and development patterns that really allow us to cluster these units in very tight areas, little neighborhoods, if you will, that really are identifiable with future residents and existing residents in our area. And then that allows us to, with these clusters, instead of extending that sprawl, if you will, across the project, it allows us to really focus on those areas and then reserve and preserve some of the open space around those areas. So the net result of that are these yellowish areas you see on this plan that are defined as essentially a large building envelope that basically contain what we would consider future subdivisions. You can see on there that filing 1 already developed, as Jim had mentioned. Filings 2 and 3 were recently approved, and we're also working on filing 4 right now, right on the heels of this PUD amendment. That leaves filings 4, 5, 6, and possibly 7, in future programs. But again, it really does try, the intent here, the overall design intent, is to really preserve these open space tracts, as well as provide our neighbors additional buffering and setbacks along the perimeter of this project. So I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian Conley just to wrap up our presentation today. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Brian Connolly with the law firm of Otten Johnson. Greg, if you could go to the next slide, please. Thanks. So just a momentary comment on water supply. I know Jim already addressed the question about the Dawson well on the Homestead parcel. There is a water supply plan that was included in your packet, and the author of that, Gina Burke, is here in the event you have any questions about it. The existing Independence Water and Sanitation District does have a proven water supply that's been verified by the state engineer's office, and that water supply is sufficient to serve the additional units that are proposed by this PUD amendment. And the water supply plan also details the water conservation efforts that are being taken at Independence. As I believe the commissioners are aware, the Independence water system does have recycling as part of it, and so that allows for really an industry-leading water conservation effort. And so again, the water supply plan was submitted with this application, and we will continue, per your regulations, we'll continue to have to submit water supply information as we come forward with additional plat filings. Next slide, please. Greg did a good job of covering the approval criteria, and so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them, but I think just to highlight a few things. Again, your comprehensive plan directs residential growth to this part of the county. It also contemplates new commercial uses, and so this proposal is certainly consistent with your plan. In terms of compatibility, I think what you've seen is there, obviously within the property, there's already similar uses to what are proposed here, and then there's been development in the surrounding area that is similar to this, and so it is compatible with surrounding uses. You've heard that we've got the public services to serve this property, and of course, there's as the community has built out, there's an SIA that controls the delivery of some of those public services as the build-out occurs. On the environment, again, no significant natural features, and on traffic, you've already heard from Mark about the build-out of the road system in the area. And then one more comment on health, safety, and welfare. I would just point out that, you know, as the county's been growing, certainly this adds needed housing to the community and a variety of different types of housing. So I think it, you know, just to sort of highlight that, it certainly serves the interest of public health, safety, and welfare. Next slide, please, Greg. So with that, that concludes our presentation. We would certainly respectfully request your approval of this application, and we look forward to hearing public comment and responding to your questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Do you have any questions?
My biggest question is the timing of infrastructure, 158 and Delbert Road particularly, that not expanding Delbert Road until, what, the 1051st permit. I find that a little awkward. The 158, as I understand it, from the Planning Commission, it was 15 months, and I'm not quite sure how that works going through the winter and all of that kind of stuff. The sooner the better. Getting it done is something that would be important. The open space, I like that. The water, that study was pretty good, but the hard thing, reading this modest little packet here, is that the timing of the infrastructure improvements is, I'd like to have that further explained.
So I'll start with the 158 repaving. You know, basically, we've got to go through a process of putting together a pavement design, and there's, I guess, a little bit of administrative work. Our intent is, and we've actually already started this, we'll work with Rory on getting that work done. We clearly want it to be, you know, county standards and, you know, follow his process, which also includes Kimley Horn, who's their outside engineer. And I think Greg depicted it accurately. 12 months, we think, is a reasonable period of time. We will get started. It won't just get done, you know, on a weekend. We're going to have to put together a traffic plan. We're going to have to shut parts of that down and work through the process. It does get difficult to, as the winter months come on, just for safety reasons, not even so much that we can't do some of the milling and some of that work during that period of time. And so we did ask Rory and staff to not end our 12 months from now, but give us a few months that if we have to kind of finish things up, we'll have the springtime to do that. So
And then some of this has to do with Douglas County. Is there anything you want to explain to us about, like that traffic circle up there? That's, half of that, I guess, is in Douglas County, and the terrain there is interesting. And Delbert Road coming all the way south, it seems like there must be some work that's going on between you guys and Douglas County.
That is correct. I don't know if I can explain Douglas County, but I will. The process right now, we've met with Douglas County. We continue to meet with your public services, Rory, and we're identifying what those improvements will need to be. The roundabout, you know, basically how we've left it with the two counties is you guys figure out what you want. We have actually already paid Douglas County for our impact of that intersection. So Douglas County knows that's on their hook. They are currently working on a process of expanding Hilltop, and then it veers off and goes up to where it meets the Singing Hills. And I think that will be ultimately the trigger of when that construction gets done, is when they connect that all the way up to that county line. The southern piece of that, we pushed it out because we really don't have the impact yet. There's just not enough users, you know, on the new Hancock until we get enough homes out there. So we pushed that out to about halfway through of the new piece. That is where that comes. So beyond the 920, about halfway out beyond that. You are correct in the intersection at 158 and Delbert is going to be challenging. There's not only some topography there, but there's also a gas line that runs along 158 and then turns north up there, and it's going to, it's set an elevation on the north side of 158 that we've got to somehow navigate through. We have been trying to work with them on how we kind of work around that, and they've been pretty unwilling to work with us. So it's an interstate gas line. It's not a local gas line. So we're going to have to kind of design where we keep our elevation until we get pretty close to 158, and then it's got to drop down into there. So I don't know that a roundabout will work very well in those circumstances. I think that's, but again, that's not us driving that. That is the engineers kind of coming up with a couple of alternatives of how that works. So that's kind of been our process.
So within the different new intersections, there were some places that recommended roundabouts. Some of them said there'd be other, whether it's stop signs or other traffic control devices. How is the decision made on what the recommendations are there?
So again, at this point, I think Rory has leaned more towards the roundabouts because of maintenance and not having the equipment to maintain signals and signalized intersections. That's, again, not our, we kind of let the engineers figure it out, and we're, you know, kind of paying for our impact on that. We will need, the trade-off is more right-of-way for the roundabout, but kind of less other infrastructure as far as power. They need now internet capability at those intersections as well. But we kind of follow the county's guidance.
Okay. I'm going to bite on your offer to review the water plan. Have been through it. I know you didn't, but you said the author was here, and I think it does lay things out very well, but I think it'd be very useful for the public and those that may be watching in the future to kind of see the details of that versus we're good. I'd like to know how we're good. I mean, we can construct roads, we can engineer around things, we can't produce more aquifer water. So if you could kind of walk through the report and how you address our 300-year water rule, I'd appreciate that.
Do that, not a problem. My name is Gina Burke. I'm with Gen Water Consultants. Yes, I am the author of the water supply plan. Pretty much, it follows the path of the original plan for the original PUD. The only additions, as we've said here, is the additional use of the 480 homes and the commercial. And with the commercial aspect of it, we kind of just came up with what if, in regard to, you know, if there was office, if there was retail, what the demands would look like. So in this report, those are the major revisions. So you'll see the 1,400 homes and the demand for the 1,400 homes. The irrigation is still off of the reuse system. So that's a second time use off our Denver aquifer water. The water supply is still Denver aquifer groundwater, following the 300-year rule of the county. And the district has more than enough water to meet the additional demands, which actually only equate to about 5 acre-feet more than the original PUD. So we're not adding a ton of demand to this project with this request. Any questions that I can answer?
No, I appreciate it.
Does that work?
Yeah, that does. Do you have any additional water?
Yeah, just a quick question.
Yeah.
I understand the Denver aquifer. Are you also using the Arapaho?
Yes, sir.
And as I hopefully read it correctly, just to confirm, you're not using the total allotment that you have. It's reduced.
No, yeah, it's reduced with the 300-year county rule, and on top of that, it's reduced because we're not using it for irrigation. So,
I apologize. I do have one more. If
no, it's fine.
you could talk through, there's a section on well interference and potential impacts on
Oh, yeah,
wells neighboring the community, if you could walk through that.
yeah, this is the same modeling that we presented in the first PUD, where we modeled the impacts on off-property from the wells that are going to be internal to the project. We have we modeled it in 2, I believe, different locations, and showed that there would not be any effect on neighboring wells off property. And with the fact that the majority of our water is coming from the Denver and the Arapaho aquifers, we don't have a lot of neighboring wells within those aquifers to affect to begin with. But there's no modeled effect. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Mr. Kiefer, you had mentioned in your presentation filings 5, 6, and possibly 7 is what? I mean, well, what's the difference between what makes something possibly, and do you anticipate future changes to this, or just potentially not building out the 1,400 homes?
Sure, it probably depends on the phasing of the project. It doesn't affect the PUD. The PUD is what you're hearing today, does not change in those regards. The phasing of it could necessitate a smaller subdivision plat or something, but the numbering is relatively arbitrary right now.
And you will have to go through, even if we approve this PUD amendment today, you'll still have to go through another filing with us as for the plat filings. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
So this doesn't overall authorize where the homes are and when, or until you file the plat filing.
What you'll see in terms of what will be built out there really comes up in the subdivision process or the platting process. And that's another hearing before the Planning Commission and this board as well.
And just really not a question, but I guess a comment. I know through the traffic study, quite a few of the intersections that were modeled are substantial and in Douglas County. So kind of the overall impact on the area being split between 2 counties is something I'm sure we'll be talking about and staff will be, but and I guess the final engineering decision, though, you know, as a county, we don't maintain traffic signals generally. So that's something new and special, but based on the map, those would be intersections adjacent to or on the border, so there may be something, if this is approved and goes forward, that perhaps Douglas County could be enticed to maintain those signals in some manner, so. Not a big fan of traffic circles, not an engineer, civil engineer anyway, so, thank you. If there's no other questions from here, propose a 10-minute recess, and then we'll come back and begin public comment. Thank you. So we're in 2:05, we're in recess. Mr. Lopez, if you would, when you're done, if I could have the sheet, that'll make it easier for me to not do the great Karnak thing as I call on folks. Thank you. Was there anybody else? I mean, we will take comments from the room regardless, but we'll start with those that had signed up to start in that order. As I said at the beginning, we've received a lot of email commentary and input. We've been through everything that was presented both in the packet, and then we were presented with everything that had come in since the packet was published yesterday evening. So we're current on any of the comments that came forward. Amanda, as to my knowledge, we don't have anybody that wanted to be called to make commentary. No. Okay, thank you. So all the public comment will be within the room today, which is good, because it's always nice to be able to see folks. As we move into public comment, just as it said, there are a few rules to the road. We want to make sure everybody is heard. We do ask that people keep their comments to 3 minutes. If you get to that point and you're nearing completion, we'll certainly let folks complete their thought. Said the volume of comments that we hear today isn't as critical as identifying issues that need to be discussed and resolved. So if somebody has stood up and they've made the same comments that you plan to, you're free to repeat them. But again, for us, if the issue is identified, we'll do our best to resolve it. So if we hear it 5 times, we'll certainly ask to resolve it. If we hear it once, we'll ask for resolution. Again, this is a quasi-judicial hearing, as I said, so we're bound to judge the application based on the information that was provided in the packet and what we hear within the hearing today. And this does provide for due process. It ensures that all parties are involved actually have access to the same information that the decision is being made on. We're tasked with determining if the application before us meets the requirements of regulations and state laws. Again, the most valuable public input is going to be input that goes directly towards whether this application is supported by regulation and law or not. I do ask if you have questions versus a comment, we'll take those, but once public comment is done, we'll ask for responses. Do ask you to address your comments to the board, not to staff or to the applicant. And again, we'll bundle up issues to discuss after public comment is complete. Again, I said I'll call those that signed up, and then if there's anybody else that would like to speak in the room, we'll open it up for that as well. So with that, public comment is open. The first person to sign up was Mr. Sean Strain. Sir, good to see you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate the time to come here and talk, and hopefully my phone cooperates. There we go. All right. So a little bit about me. My name is Sean Strain.
Please speak into the speaker so we can hear you, please.
I'm sorry, sir. Here, I'll squat down a little bit, Mr. Thayer. And I'm trying to work the room, which doesn't help either, does it?
No, you're
Oh,
really supposed
geez,
to.
I lost 30 seconds.
Just
All
talk to
right.
us, Sean.
Anyway, my name is Sean Strain. I'm a Colorado native that has lived in eastern Douglas County and western Elbert County for over 15 years. I perform historic research and restoration services for clients. My services range from conducting research and publishing reports on historic farms and ranches to researching the past of historical artifacts. Now, the rest of this isn't about me, okay? I'm honored to be working with craft companies as a historian for independence. The Craft Companies Independence Project has demonstrated a commitment to preserving the heritage of our ranching and farming communities. As Colorado continues to grow further into our rural communities, Craft Companies model creates a balance between a rural lifestyle and modern development. Many of the century-old buildings used to ranch the land since the 1890s are being preserved, including the Homestead House, Farmhouse Victorian, and barn, which are planned to be transformed into shared community spaces and amenities, as we've heard from these gentlemen. This is not being done by other developers in Elbert County, as we've heard. I've guided the preservation process for over the past few years, preserving and restoring discovered artifacts and bringing the past and present together for future generations, both at Independence and for the public. For example, in collaboration with Denver Urban Gardens, shared community gardens are also planned at Independence to cultivate new and experienced resident gardeners and to promote horticultural beauty and healthy living. This will be done using water-wise techniques that combine methods that have been utilized in our High Plains desert for over 100 years, along with modern approaches. Craft Companies creates conservation communities that follow three main development practices: preservation, sustainability, and restoration. They're also committed to being an active partner in the communities where they have made local charitable contributions to organizations that are doing impactful, meaningful work in the community. I would encourage Elbert County government to look at what Craft Companies has done with historic preservation and consider implementing a countywide preservation process. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. 3 minutes. All righty. Joshua Rivero.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Appreciate your time today. My name is Joshua Rivero. I own, sorry, should I state my name and address for the record? Joshua Rivero, 12089 South Tall Kid Court, Parker, Colorado. I own Fika Coffee House. I have two locations, one on Main Street in Parker and one in Idlewild in the sales office that used to be, well, was selling my neighborhood. I've been successful at that business, and I hope to bring that idea to this community here. I like the idea of having a community center, and I like the idea of giving a place for the neighborhood to get together. It works for us. We employ neighborhood kids. I've had 10 families that have worked for me. 10 sets of siblings have gone through my business. If you count my baby sister, then there's been 11 families that have worked for my business. My oldest employee right now, Allison, is 10 years. She's been on my payroll. These are all Parker kids. These are all Douglas County kids. And hopefully out here, these will all be Elbert County kids, and these will all be Elizabeth kids. We like to get people that are invested in our community to work for our business. We want the pride to be there. We want the neighborhood to feel that the business is part of them, that we're there to serve them, and that this is their place to be. I'm an Elbert County kid. My family moved to Elbert County, up in your neck of the woods, Mr. Richardson. My parents are up in Rattlesnake off 186, just by the Dysarts. In the late 80s, back when Mayor Lopez was Mayor Lopez. There wasn't a lot to do. And my first job was vacuuming the tennis courts at the Pinery. And then I got into the restaurant business, and the closest thing I could do for a restaurant was over on Arapahoe Road, because there was just not a lot unless you worked at the Warhorse. And my brother worked at the Warhorse. So we just didn't have a lot to do out here. We didn't have a lot to employ our kids. And what Fika offers is a place that looks at its local workforce first. It employs the local kids first. We want the kids that are invested in our community to serve their neighbors. And we want a place where our neighbors can gather. Main Street, when we opened it in '08, it became a little post office. People come in and leave messages. Hey, if you see Jim later, give him this. Or, hey, I'm going to leave this for so-and-so. Or we would get packages for our neighbor businesses because they weren't open until 10 o'clock, and FedEx would drop stuff off. We see the same situation happening in Independence. We want to bring back what is old retail. At both of our businesses, we run family tabs. The Richardson family has a tab. Mr. Richardson Jr. comes in and wants to get a cup of coffee, he can write it on the tab, and Mr. Richardson Sr. come in later and take care of the bill. But that's what we look for. That's what we strive for in creating a community, and that's why I appreciate this community. You have 6 criteria in front of you. I believe that this community answers those criteria fully, and I appreciate the work you have to do today, and I thank you for your time for listening.
Thank you. And for the record, as a commissioner, I don't have a tab at any local business, so thank you. But I appreciate that. No. Thank you, and if the beeping was taken care of, I appreciate that. So, no. Oh, okay. No need to apologize, but thank you. I was thinking we'd added a beeper to our clock. So, that if I could, Mr. Dennis Marglin, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Dennis Marglin. I live at 505 Signal Ridge Circle in Elizabeth. My concerns today are addressed to the board. We have 26,000 residents in Elbert County. When I went to the Planning Commission for Independence, they said, you don't have to worry because it's all taken care of by the residents that will be residing there. Well, there's no free lunch. So what I want to know is, when is the 26,000 residents of Elbert County going to be hit with the roads improvement, the sheriff's department, added cars, added staff, okay, added people for plowing the roads? That's my concern. I know it's free lunch because the people are going to be paying for it, but at some time it's going to end, and that's my concern. And it should be the concern of the 26,000 people that are out here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next person I have is Nicole Hunt. Ma'am, thank you.
Nicole Hunt, 515 Signal Ridge Trail, Elizabeth, Colorado. I'm here to give a statement on behalf of my husband, Jeff Hunt, who could not be here because he's picking up our children, since that's what you do about this time of the day if you've got kids. With nearly a 20-year career in public policy, I know how important laws and policies are to shaping our communities. I was a passionate voice against Colorado embracing marijuana legalization, knowing that this policy decision would lead to higher violence, drug overdoses, cartel activity, and homelessness in our communities. I was right. In passing the Reproductive Health Equity Act, Colorado was going to become a travel destination for abortions from around the country. That's exactly what's happening. I'm asking that you take into consideration the consequences of unrestricted multifamily development seriously in Elbert County. In a recent opinion piece in the Gazette, I warn of the loss of rural and conservative values in our county if this continues. No county that urbanizes gets more conservative. If we continue down the path of developing Elbert County with thousands of new homes, we will lose conservative values that have attracted your residents to make this beautiful rural county their home. A look to the west in Douglas County shows us how a county can swing 20 points to the left in just 10 years with poor county development management. Contentious school board battles, abortion facilities, pot shops, high crime and traffic, all are coming our way if we continue. There are plenty of ways to develop well in Elbert County while maintaining our rural way of life. For instance, requiring acreage minimums. You cannot rely on preserving open space alone. I understand the need you have to grow the economic impact of our county. We all want great jobs and for the future of our county to thrive. In debates about marijuana legalization, I would warn that drug legalization would take our communities from Bedford Falls to Pottersville, referencing the film It's a Wonderful Life. That happened to Denver. Please be wise in your leadership regarding Elbert County. Do not allow this wonderful county to be turned into Pottersville. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Diane Varner.
I'm sorry that my alarm went off.
No need to apologize. I just
I have a couple concerns. Number one, the placement of the school. Honestly, that needs to be placed on Hancock Parkway. Get it off of Road 158. If you've ever driven 158, especially recently, it is a drag strip where people are very unsafe and pass on double yellow lines. They are going mostly into Independence. You've had issues with Praying Hands Ranch where in the last year, 3 times they have had to deal with people going through their fence. Now, that's Douglas County, but the speeds on that road are dangerous, and I know you have no control of speed, but if they're only going to pave it, it's only going to make it better for those who want to take advantage of aggressive driving and speeds. As for commercial, looking at where they want to place it, it seems out of place on 158 and Road 5 and should be up next to Singing Hills where there is currently commercial. I would also like to mention that I'm a big proponent of xeriscape, and I know some of the homes on their properties have small patches of grass. Well, that's great, but if it's not native grasses or native plantings seen in our area, it shouldn't be there. I also would like to ask, or have you ask the applicant, how many wells they have attempted to drill and how many have come up dry. In addition to that, with respect to the gentleman that's from Fika Coffee, I have jammed with many musicians at Fika. It's a wonderful experience. However, I know for a fact that a business here in Elbert County was approached before Fika, and they were asked to be the coffee shop on record for Independence. And if you're going to bring someone in to Independence, it should be an Elbert County business. And I know the gentleman for Fika lives in Elbert County. I respect that. But he turned down a coffee shop here and brought someone from Douglas County that has a business to Independence, which is what it appears. Do I need to give my name? I didn't do that at the beginning, did I?
I have it here, but just to complete
Okay.
the record.
Okay, Diane Varner, 36159 Winchester Road.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. Amy Yerger. It's a variety of handwritings up here today, so.
I apologize for my messy writing. I'm Amy Yarger. I'm the horticulture director at Butterfly Pavilion, which is outside of Elbert County, but I thank you for the time today. So I wanted to share with you the results of what our work so far has been with craft companies. One of the things we do at Butterfly Pavilion is we work with communities all throughout Colorado to improve pollinator habitat. The reason why we do that is pollinators are the foundation of our food security. 1 out of every 3 bites of food we take is dependent on a pollinator. That results in about $9 billion a year just in the state of Colorado in our agricultural system reliant on pollinators. Also, in our native ecosystems, you're talking almost 80% of all flowering plants require pollination. So our prairies, our forests, our wetlands are all very dependent on pollinators continuing to survive. And so craft companies in its focus on conservation realize this, and so they are seeking to become a pollinator district at Independence. And in the first year of monitoring that we have done, and this is just the first year because they have put in many native plants in their landscaping and really focused not only on the landscaping, but the preservation of open space, as well as cultivating that spirit of stewardship in their residence. We have seen the number of macro pollinator families, which means like the big pollinators that everyone can see, the butterflies, the bumblebees, the hawk moths, things like that. We have seen those number of families more than double just within 1 year. It's the spirit of you plant it and they will come. We have seen the number of individuals from September 2021 to September 2022 just really significantly increase. In 2021, before the landscaping was established around the farmhouse, we saw 9 pollinators. This year we saw 205. It just goes to show that this commitment to making a difference for biodiversity and resilience in the face of drought using those native plants really makes a difference for the community as a whole. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Steve Balasarovich. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, Steve Belsarovich, 38567 Kiowa Bennett Road. I am a third-generation Elbert County resident. I am a Kiowa High School graduate. Now that high school that I went to is a history museum. Makes me feel a little old. Both sets of my grandparents raised their families on ranches in Elbert County. My mom's side out by Rama, my dad's side here just north of Kiowa. As you may know, my mom taught school for 52 years here in Elbert County. The middle school library is named in her name. Bill Owens gave her a Marjorie Balsarovich Day in the state of Colorado. Why do I give this background about my family? They had something all in common. They welcomed new residents. My grandparents would help new neighbors do their farm chores. My mom welcomed new students from the metro area into her classroom and made them feel at home. My dad would plow snow in new neighbors' driveways because they had no idea what the winters were here. They were so much different than in Denver. So continuing in my family tradition, I support the influx of new residents and developments coming into Elbert County, especially if they were forward-thinking, well-planned communities like Independence. We all know that the county's tax base must continue to grow. History has shown that counties that remain stagnant over time have their quality of life and services decline. I believe Independence is a model community. I have, fortunate with my job, I'm able to travel around this beautiful state. And Independence is as good as any other master plan community I can see. Compared to other developments in the county, I find the architecture appealing and varied. It has many acres of open space to let wildlife roam free. With my water background, Independence has a state-of-the-art water conservation tool and uses less water than even Sterling Ranch residents. As I drove out there today, many homes have rooftop solar panels, decreasing the need for new baseload centralized electric generation resources. In closing, as you can see, I don't want to put a fence around Elbert County. I don't want to say you're not welcome here. It would lead to economic ruin. Please approve Independence final phase. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, just did want to share your pain. My high school is now a retirement home, honestly. So, John Carlson was the next who had signed up. Yes, sir. If you could, just your address for the record.
Sure, yeah. John Carlson, 1350 East Witherspoon, Elizabeth. Yeah, I'm actually an Independence resident, and I just want to say I've really enjoyed it. Me and my wife and my 2 kids moved in about a year ago. We bought our house in 2021. What we think these guys have done has been a really good job. So we fully support it. We've got great neighbors and just really enjoyed the community feel behind the neighborhood. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Monica Brohammer? Brohammer, okay.
Monica Brohammer, 41354 Farmhouse Circle, 80138. It's Parker, but it's Elbert County, I guess we're learning. So I just wanted to speak today to give kind of a different perspective. We're new to Colorado, my husband and I. He retired from the Navy after 20 years and spent his career in California. And even though our families were out there, we were excited to leave that state because of poor policy making and the craziness and the influx of people and traffic and congestion and all the things that happen out there, even though it's one of the most beautiful places. But my point being, we came out here, we first went to Highlands Ranch, don't know anybody out here, heard good schools, right? We have a child in school-age child, good schools, lots of amenities, great. We get out there and we realize pretty quickly it's not the kind of place that we want to live, right? It's literally a mini San Diego, even worse in some ways, because at least San Diego, it doesn't all look the same. And so we started looking for a place to buy, and we came out further this way because of the rural nature, right? He's ready for peace and quiet and some space from your neighbors and ready to do that thing. So having just bought that house literally a month ago, kind of surprised when we start seeing these developments and we get a little scared, right? That this is, if I was to go back to Highlands Ranch, filings from 1990, I would guess they probably started one development at a time, right? And keep going and going from there. So my biggest concern as to this one, from what I've heard, is they're seeking to add about 55% more homes, increasing that traffic on two-lane roads that we've traveled so far and are already difficult. If there's an accident, there's really with one lane each direction, there's really no way to go around. And I haven't really heard anything besides paving that's going to improve the traffic that'll come from 55% more than what was already discussed with the community a year ago, right? And so, especially also concerned about schooling. I see there's property reserved for a school that I assume will take some time to get built and be developed, and I'm assuming it's probably an elementary school that's planned there. What's the plan for the increase on the junior high, the high school, teachers, from what I've been hearing in the community, that already think they're underpaid and overworked? I just haven't heard anything here today about that. So I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for bringing those issues up. Mr. Lopez.
My name is Greg Lopez, 36792 View Ridge Drive. Perhaps it might be helpful for the developer and others to understand where I come from. You've heard that perhaps I am anti-growth, and I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. What I do come here to tell you is that I understand development. As a former mayor of Parker, Colorado, it was a strong mayor form of government. I was the mayor and the city manager at the same time. I sat on every commission and every committee of the town of Parker, the Planning Commission, the Parks Commission, the Economic Development Council. I understand the Uniform Traffic Code. I understand impact studies. I understand water plans. I understand all the issues that you're facing, and understand how Douglas County approaches partnerships. I'm here to tell you that I would caution you in following Douglas County as to relying on them to maintain the traffic lights and do the design of the roundabout. Look, you must understand that as I look at this, commissioners, I listened to you very closely when you said that you sit as a quasi-governmental entity. You are sitting as judges, and you're reviewing the evidence that's in front of you. So I'm going to focus on the evidence because I think it's important. The staff, if you look at the staff report on item 3, whether it says that one of the conditions is whether the proposed zoning would adversely impact the provisions of public service. If you read their statement, it says it will not, because the metro districts are the main financing mechanism which will make sure that this is not going to have an impact. Yet 3 of those metro districts that they're referring don't even exist. They're not even there. So how can a staff member tell you that this application will not negatively impact the services of a community when 3 of the metro districts that they're referring to do not exist today? I question that logic. Now, the other thing that they mention is that when you look at their conditions of approval, they don't even have a condition of approval that states that you should, if you're going to approve this, you should approve it with a condition that metro districts will be approved or finalized in the future. But yet you have yet to see that information. You have yet to hear the public testimony on that. And yet I hear a lot of people saying this is a great developer. I don't think you're here to judge the character of an applicant. I think you sit as judges to judge the evidence as it's been presented to you. So I'd really caution you to analyze item 3 of the staff report and see if that is justified. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the input on that. Do we have anybody else that would like to speak that did not sign up? One person stood quickly, and then we'll go to you, ma'am.
My name is Ken Turnbull, live at 7651 Carolyn Drive in Castle Rock. I've got 3 different angles on this. First is monetary. I'm a real estate agent, so I would like to see more inventory available, not just in Douglas County, but everywhere. People are leaving Denver, and some of them are going to come out here. Second is I've purchased land in Elbert County. I'm working on getting my home designed and look forward to being a member of the community. One of the problems I see is a shortage of services. I'd like to see another snowplow. I'd like to see another ambulance. I'd like to see more fire. And without growth, I don't see any of those things being able to be funded, although I do see a fair amount of money is being raised through the efforts of people getting grants and such, which I applaud. Third point, no one talks about wildlife. And it's not about me, but I was raised on a farm. I ran a trap line and sold my furs to the Hudson Bay Company. So I'm a real proponent of wildlife. Currently where I live in Carolyn Drive next to Castle Pines North, I've 3 deer in my yard this morning. I've got magpies, blue jays, occasional skunks and raccoons at night. Every time I drive out in Elbert County, it's a high prairie desert. I see so little. I see grasshoppers and gophers in the summertime. I see a few meadowlarks, and in the winter I see virtually nothing when I drive out here. And why is that? Very simple. Trees, shrubs, homes for the wildlife. And we have so much of that in our community. Our lots are basically, my lot is 0.4 acres. Many are acreages in that area. We have bear, we have bobcat, we have a network. Hey, the bear's out tonight, put your bird feeder away. So I believe that by having more communities of this nature with the combined open space and people, one other thing I was thinking of is I don't carry a rifle in my truck, but maybe that's why when I do see a deer or an antelope, I always see the rear end as it's running over a hill. I'm assuming that Independence will not be having any shooting, and that becomes a wildlife preserve for these animals, and it doesn't take them long to get to know that, and I love having them around. Thank you for listening. I sure hope you support the proposal.
Thank you, sir. Diana, it's from you. Had your hand up.
Diana Edstrom, 10243 Private Road 106 in Elbert. I had a bunch of questions I was going to ask, but based on the other comments that I've heard, I'm going to make a personal comment, which is not evidence or anything black and white. Many of us moved, I'm a New York native, please don't hold that against me, but many of us live in this county and moved to this county for the rural quality, for the wide open views, for the wildlife, which this gentleman says he hasn't seen, but we have an abundance of hawks, antelope, deer. We've got one of the largest elk herds in the state. We have bobcat, we have all of that wildlife. but you're not going to see a lot of it in all of the areas that have been developed. They're in the Bijou, they're down in the town of Elbert, where we have lots of wide open spaces. We're a conservative community. We're 75% Republican, and many of us are here because of that. People that have come up here and made comments, and no personal offense, don't live in this county and yet want to tell us what a wonderful community this is. Butterflies are great. I love butterflies. That is not what makes this county what it is. We are a very diverse county. We have ranchers, we have farmers, we have horse communities. And that is one of the reasons why we are here, and we don't want it to change. And again, I know this is a personal thing. Saying we don't want it to change is not something quantifiable, but it is a way of life, and it is a way of life we're going to lose if this development continues. Mr. Kraft wants to develop Elbert County East and Elbert County West, which will bring us, I believe, at least 6,000 more houses, industrial development, commercial development. We don't have that infrastructure. We don't want that infrastructure. And those are not the only developments that are being discussed. So before you guys approve anything else, I would ask that you take a holistic view of this county and what is coming, and not a little piecemeal here or a piecemeal here. You're talking, what, 500 homes here, but what about the other thousands of homes that everybody already has heard about and knows about? It's not what we're here for, and I would ask you to please try and take that into consideration.
Thank you, ma'am. There was a hand in the back, ma'am.
I'm going to make this quick and painless. And greetings, commissioners. I'm Bill Howell, 7131 South Shenandoah Drive. I'm with the Elbert County Partnership. So I've heard a lot of talk about the commercial aspect of this property, Independence, and I'll share a little bit about that. We have a little market right at the corner of where we have several hundred homes in Sun Country Meadows. Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, I'd rather stop there and give them another 10 cents on the dollar and just not go to town. I really just don't enjoy driving to town all the time. And I saw a post the other day on the lady that was just desperate to find hay because she wanted to buy somebody's local hay because she didn't want to even go to Elizabeth. So, you know, I see that as a residential-driven commerce. I mean, I see that as something that's essential. Also, it keeps the cars off the road. It you know, keeps people at home if that's where they want to be. They don't need to drive out of town. But I will say also that as a member of the Elbert County Partnership, we have the duty to look into things like developers. And early on, I was tasked with looking at this developer and a few others that have tried to come into the county in the last several years. And I fully believe, from what I've seen so far at looking at their past developments and activities, that they've contributed well to every single development that they've done. I think it's just it's so important that we all hold people accountable. You know, there's a few things with these other people too that I agree with. You know, roads close to praying hands. I mean, people are crashing off that road all the time. And if we can help to look at that and hold everybody accountable when they're going to pitch in and do all this, and maybe even hold the county accountable too, I think it's essential. 3 accidents in the past month or so, you know, right there. And maybe we could help look at that. But I do want to say that I can firmly state that craft companies and a couple of others have been really good partners to the county in charity and service and overall concerns for the future. And a lot of opportunity has been created. I don't think this is a willy-nilly thing, and I don't think it's going to continue. We're not going to grow at a great rate. We're going to stay probably over 90% agriculturally zoned for well into the next 25, 30 years. So with that, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I signed up, but I think I must have signed up on the wrong sheet. Carrie Martin, 1211 Pawnee Parkway. That's okay. Elizabeth. And I will say I have grown up and lived most of my life in Douglas and Elbert counties. I moved to Parker in the mid-70s, and when I was 10, they built the Victoria Village apartments. And with the innocence of a child, I looked at my mom and I said, well, are they gonna build a community barn? I mean, where are these people gonna keep their horses? I couldn't conceive that you would move to Parker and not have horses. My stepdad was the president of the Chamber of Commerce in Parker when they developed Parker Days. So I've grown up in this area. And I have to say, watching the development of Parker and Douglas County has been heartbreaking. People mentioned Highlands Ranch. I rode Highlands Ranch as a child when it was a Diamond K Ranch. I also will say that my dad and my stepdad were also builders, so I understand the importance of growth and thoughtful growth. From a slightly different perspective, as a professional, I've worked in juvenile justice my entire career. I was previously the director of the Marvin Foote Youth Services Center, which is the detention facility for the 18th Judicial District, including Douglas, Lincoln, Elbert, and Arapahoe counties. And in my career in juvenile justice, watching the crime rate increase drastically and the severity of crime within Douglas County, within our juveniles, was terrifying to me. That's also why I live in Elbert County and have for so long, this is my safe place. I like that I don't see graffiti that I'm now seeing in Parker and Douglas County. I like that I just don't have those same concerns out here. So I appreciate growth. We need to grow. I'm enjoying some of the amenities that we have out here. I don't have to drive as far to get some stuff. But I would ask that we are thoughtful in our growth. This is only just a drop in the bucket. There's so much more to come. So being thoughtful in the idea of 1,400 homes out there and then the next 1,400 home development really makes me nervous. So I would ask, what are you all doing to support the rural lifestyle? Are we talking about trying to have a certain number of or minimums of acreage, whether it's a 5-acre minimum at a certain percentage of the county, as well as just looking at those future costs for safety services? Obviously, I'm very mindful of law enforcement and things like that, which we're already seeing an increase in crime rate in Elbert County. Those are the things that I would ask that the commissioners please keep in mind with these requests. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I apologize for skipping you earlier. Do we have anybody else that would like to speak? Sir, and then we'll go up to the back. Thank you for attending. Thank you. And your comments?
How's it going?
Doing well.
I'm Darnell Peterson. I live on 60 Singing Hill Road. I just moved here a few months ago. I have a pressure washing business and I remodel homes. And I'm just here on the behalf of the craft companies and independents. Threw me a lot of work and got me a place to stay up here. So I'm just here showing my support. And hopefully you guys could finalize what needs to be finalized and, get this ball rolling. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Sir.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Glenn Stice. I live at 5792 Perth Place in Centennial, Colorado. I did recently purchase some land here in Elbert County. Just real quick, I've been a land surveyor for 25 years. I've done a lot of work in this county. I've seen the growth. reminds me of where I grew up back in the Midwest. I really do love the county, the rural feel. As many have said, I think growth is inevitable, and it has both sides of the story, let's face it. I do truly encourage the approval and support the Kraft Company's development. I believe that their overall commitment is very clear. They're very professional, and it is a positive impact on the Elbert County. So that's all I just wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any other comments? Ma'am.
My name is Sunny Mills, 27310 Forest Ridge Drive, Kiowa. I am concerned that Kraft will build 3 more municipal districts after this, or metro districts, excuse me. It was my understanding that Graham Anderson Analytics was brought in from Colorado Springs.
Yeah, if I may, ma'am, that's
To
the metro
anal-
districts is a hearing that will come after this, and
Oh, is that coming up?
yeah, we'll likely open it and continue till tomorrow
Okay,
based
so
on
I
the
hadn't
time,
heard
but-
it.
Okay.
All right, so also, the planning director had mentioned there was nothing adverse. There's no adverse impacts, and I think one of the things the planning director should do is give positive and negative, so that you truly have the ability to make a good decision. And obviously, I've seen the plan, and I've seen these gentlemen, and they're very responsible and professional. I like the plan. However, and our number 3 will be adversely impacted. I don't know if you have number 3 up there from the very beginning. As the rezoning impacts to double, even more than what's there, I'm concerned about public services and when those will be built and how many will be needed. I'm concerned about school overcrowding because at the planning meeting, they said the school wouldn't be built for more than 10 years. So what happens to all those children? How are they bused? Where do they go? Do they go to Singing Hills? Where are they going to go? 158 is also a major traffic byway. People commute through there every morning, every evening, bumper to bumper. And with additional commercial buildings and the school, Kraft has said that they are not committed to making it any more than 2 lanes. But it needs to be 4 lanes, or it needs to have a 3rd lane, a turning lane, so where is that coming from? How is that going to be planned for? That has not been addressed. On number 4, there is an impact on the environment. They have a well. They have 2 wells. The second well they haven't touched. It goes into the lower Dawson, and they can pull as much water. They are unlimited in their water usage.
Commissioners, that's 3 minutes.
So that you're going to come up to that. Okay, so that's a concern. Number 5 is access to all of the commercials, and the way the roads run, everybody's going to be dropping their tax dollars into Parker and really not coming into Elizabeth as we wanted them to do. In addition, I am from a military family, and originally these homes were supposed to house people at $400,000 per unit. They have since jumped to $800,000 per unit, with the lowest being $700,000. That's unaffordable. Sorry, that doesn't work. Okay, and
you have one more point, I'll take it.
one more. All right, and I guess I could wait on the others, but I think we need to if there's future development, and I know there is some planned, we need to carefully look at the fact that, are we taking everything into consideration, or are we just bypassing these things and ignoring things that need to be addressed, just giving carte blanche? It's not right.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, any additional comments? We've almost exhausted the room, so. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close public comment at this point. I'm going to say we're going to recess for 20 minutes. There are quite a few issues brought up by the public. I think the applicant and staff probably need a little time to gather their thoughts so they can respond. So it's 3 p.m. We're in recess. All righty. Yeah. Well, Amanda says we're not all righty. Okay. All right. It's 3:27, and we're coming out of recess. Give the opportunity for applicant and staff to respond to public comment. I'd actually turn it over to the applicant if you'd like to respond to issues that you heard, and if there's others that we saw, we'll chime in.
Sure. Thanks, commissioners. I think that the things that we heard are probably boiled down into 5 main topics. The first relates to water. There's 2 kind of locational topics, the location of the school, the location of the commercial, and sort of how those were determined. There's also just kind of the question of this, your third of your approval criteria about adverse impact on the provision of public services. And then I think we also heard, a number of comments about preserving rural character. So what I'd like to do first is invite Gina Burke back up to address the water concerns, and then we'll move on to the other ones.
There it goes. All right, Gina Burke with Gen Water Consultants, sorry. Okay, so there were 2 comments that I caught. One was a comment about dry wells at Independence. There are no dry wells at Independence. The aquifers underlying Elbert County have water in each of them. We have an Arapahoe and 2 Denvers completed, and we're currently drilling another Arapahoe aquifer well at this time. In regard to the comment in regard to a Lower Dawson well, the only statement I have is we don't have a Lower Dawson well, so I don't know exactly what meant with that comment. Like I said, we've got, as mentioned before, the Upper Dawson well at the homestead, and then we have the district wells being the 2 Denvers and the Arapahoe. Anything else that came? Okay.
And then, Jim, you want to address the school location and commercial location?
Yeah, so again, I think this is, these are just bubble diagrams here that are kind of put in locations. This school site here is, it may appear like it's on 158, but it really would have access. You would come in at a stoplight, kind of like at Legend High School. You're going to come in here, you're going to, the traffic's going to come around and circulate around here. These are right in, right out only intersections because of the spacing with what will ultimately be at Delbert Road. So that was in collaboration with the schools. We, again, are not driving their decisions. We don't determine when they build a school. We don't determine how they, whether they choose to bus or whatever they do. We do have, it's called the student generator formula. There is an impact of, projection that shows what their needs will be, but they may choose to put our impact fees that we will pay to them as we go through the community. They may choose to put it in a different location. We don't really have a lot of say. They like this site. when we met with him last, we are now going into a new superintendent. And I don't know, we have not had that new person, which I think is only about a week old or so. But we'll work with them. You know, we'd love to have a school on site. It's good for our community, but if not, we'll work with them on, you know, how we get kids to the schools that they have.
Okay, and just having been a former school board member in Elizabeth, before a parcel was accepted, there would be open public meetings on the school district side to be discussing this as well. They're just not going to receive a piece of land without, you know, on the real estate side, you have to make formal public decisions on
Correct.
on picking up or giving up property. So
Correct, and again, we're just trying to, at this point, show that there's room for a school site, and we've agreed in an agreement between us and the school district, the size of it. That would not be a high school site. They are not intending to do that on the very western, that needs to be more central in their view. But this could be a K through 8. It's big enough to accommodate elementary and middle, and they may choose to just put an elementary on it. That's, again, not our decision per se, but we will support them in what they want to do with that. And really the same with the commercial. The commercial, for those of you who are familiar with this site, there's a big chunk of this that really is more drainage. It kind of drops off. It's down. It might get taken up by Elbert Extension as well. So it's somewhat of a placeholder in there. And again, that's why it's, you know, just kind of a square right now. It's a location. As we would put a plat together, we would identify kind of where and how those things go, but it would most likely have, you know, kind of presence along here. We're not going to have access directly off of, you know, this area. That's more of a buffer. And that's really why this site is this way. The school really is contemplated being up here, and this would be, you know, buffer, storm drainage. School sites, which I've built quite a few, have been, they're huge storm drainage issue. They have a lot of parking lots. They have a lot of, you know, impervious surface and buildings and things. And so that would really be a buffer to the road as well.
And then the final items that I think we heard about.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
You have a question, Mr.
A little bit off topic, but off the entrances there around the school property, I'm assuming you would be looking at acceleration, deceleration lines with those right-in, right-outs?
Yeah, so what you're not seeing are all the internal roads. You can kind of just see some of this, and, you know, these are neighborhoods, so there are a number of different roads around through there. We would work with the school on kind of queuing lines. There will be here on this road off of 158, an A-cell, D-cell, but we're not intending to queue to the school off of 158. You're going to have to go around and get to it a different way, and most likely it would be like come in here and go out here, and there will be other roads, you know, in the finer network, the smaller network that would be.
Not an issue you'd seen at a local charter school at all? No? Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, the neighborhood concept is great, but you put something in the middle of here, and you will hear from all those residents, because they queue cars like crazy. They really do.
Yes, I think that, you know, the last couple of items that we heard about, first was kind of this question about the provision of public services. So your third of your criteria says, requires you to consider whether the proposed rezoning would adversely impact the provision of public services. And so the type of public services that we're talking about, when we're talking about public services, are everything from water and sewer to natural gas and electric, and then sheriff, fire, schools, streets, and parks. And so Mr. Lopez noted that the staff report does address the fact that some of those services would be anticipated to be provided by special districts, by metro districts, and there will be a hearing after this one on that topic, and so we won't necessarily talk about districts right now. But what I will say about that is that, you know, the applicant's narrative has an explanation about how all those services will be provided. So the Independence Water and Sanitation District will provide water and sewer. You've already heard about water. Black Hills will provide gas. Core IREA will provide electric. And then developer has agreements with fire protection district, with school district, with park district on how those services will be provided. And then in addition to that, at least as the community has been building out, and as I expect it will continue to build out, the landowner has obligations to pay fees to support things like sheriff and whatnot. So, we certainly believe that all of those public services will be provided as part of this development. It's typical that development would pay its own way and would provide services as it develops out. And so that's good, that will happen as this project continues to build out. And then the final thing, I think we did hear a few comments about the need to preserve rural character. And, I would go back to your comprehensive plan. Your comprehensive plan, I think, does a good job of trying to preserve rural character by saying, let's focus our growth in kind of that northwestern corner of the county, where we can, grow in kind of these conservation communities with more, significant open space, in this case, 50% open space. And really the alternative, right, if you have a growing county, this is a place where people want to live, the alternative is to have kind of more sprawling development across more of the county. And so I would just say that I think your plan, which was certainly a document that was created by the community and was created with community input, focuses that growth in the right place to allow for the preservation of rural character. So I think this development is a way that can happen. So with that, I think we've responded to most of the items that were raised in public comment. Certainly, if you heard other things or if you have other questions, we're happy to take them.
More of a comment than anything. I was at a meeting Monday evening with Chief Steck at Elizabeth Fire. He intended to be here, but then another meeting came up for him, and he knew I wasn't going to be here. But he let me know I could relay when anything questioned about the services came up with the upcoming fees that you've discussed and the studies that they've done as the growth takes place. He was confident they could supply the service from the Elizabeth Fire Department. So just relay that to everybody.
Thank you. I know the design standards are part of the PUD. There was a question or comment made about xeriscaping and native grasses. I know there's, my understanding, I guess if I'm correct, is for all the individual homes, if there's a landscaping plan, it's approved by the overlay district with water conservation in mind. Is that the way this works, or am I?
Yes, that is correct. And our district reviews all of those. They have to be approved before they can be installed. Typically, the builder will kind of pre-approve the front yards and they install those. And there are restrictions on the types of turf in particular, and the plantings that go in, and also the quantity. So how much you can put and where you can put it.
I think that, let me just check my notes. Well, just to put it out there, and I would like to ask, there's several comments about the character and culture of Elbert County and the conservative nature of our community. To my knowledge, if you could confirm, it would be illegal to classify who can buy or not buy a home in any community in this. Is that true? I think there's some equal protection issues in
yes, we're
saying
not
who can live in.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, and to my knowledge,
Tim's going to kick me though if I answer that.
Thank you. the consideration of a condition of approval that associated metro districts to support this, is that something you would be amenable to? I know I'm getting ahead of a hearing tomorrow, but my understanding is, from my reading of those applications, that any costs not borne or covered by the metro district would be borne by the developer. So to me, it seems like it's covered in both directions, but I don't want to get outside this hearing too much.
Commissioner, I can say that that's been discussed in numerous staff discussions as well as with the applicant. The reality is there are technically other aspects by which this development could be developed or financed, I guess, suppose, without special districts alone. And so that's really kind of, I think, where staff was looking at it. But, you know, that's...
No, and I would accept that. I mean, I know this is zoning. There's nothing to be constructed until plating and subdivision and perhaps updated SIAs come into play. So just wanted to kind of see that response. As to the other conditions of approval that were presented, are those acceptable?
Yes.
No, appreciate that. Any other final questions?
Yeah, I've got a couple of comments. One is the rural aspect of this community. It already is 920 homes on this particular piece of land, and these additional 480 homes are going to be within the same boundaries as the existing one. And one of the things I find a little bit puzzling is, what is agricultural culture? If you've ranched like I have, it takes 35 acres to raise one cow in Elbert County. So the whole idea that a half acre, 3 acres, 5 acres is an agricultural environment is not true, unless you're raising rabbits in a cage. The whole point that I'm trying to get at is this does not utilize any additional agricultural land. And one of the things, I'm not sure I've got my statistics exactly right, but there's 1,852 square miles in Elbert County, of which less than 10% of that is in any kind of a development whatsoever. Now, I'm not including 35 acres or 60 acre deals, because those are a state regulated thing and not a subdivision regulated thing. So the idea, so the incremental impact to the county for this particularly increase in size is de minimis, because most of the traffic's going to be in Douglas County anyway. But more importantly, it's not developing any additional existing agricultural lands at this time. Now, one of the comments, or two of the comments, or three of the comments by some of the citizens here, but this developer might come with some more well, we'll have to hear those when that time comes. We can't predetermine what that particular thing would be. And the idea of commercial there, I presume that we'll get some sales tax that right now is going to Douglas County. So there may be, and the amount of that money, I'm sure, is not going to be significant, but it's one of those things. But one of the biggest complaint I have about all of this, and maybe they actually will be heard when we have a plat filing, I'm not sure, is that they can develop the commercial land before they extend Delbert Road all the way down to Hilltop. To me, the diversification of the exit from this subdevelopment has value to me in terms of community convenience and all of these kind of things. So I don't know if I should try and make that a condition of approval here now, or wait till we have a plat filing. It's one of those things, it's going to come up again and again and again until it's recognized that that road needs to be extended. The rest of it, the water thing, one of my degrees has got a lot of geology in it, and I understand aquifers and all of these kind of things. And recognizing that the state determines the 100-year water. And as I went through the math on this thing, I completely understand what the outside consultant put together in terms of the water utility. The one thing I want to compliment this particular developer on is the reuse of the water. We have some other older developments in the county, and some of them have sewer plants and things like that. But this is the only one that currently has the ability to recycle that water. What I think you call it a purple pipe system or something like that. But the whole point is some of the older developments in the county, when they process the water, do you know what they do with it? They put it in a creek, and then Denver gets to use it. So the whole point is that that 40% utility has value. It has value to the county. And it also, one of the other things that's particularly interesting about that, and then now I'm going back into geology here, is the Upper Dawson, which people keep talking about, is recharged from the surface. So if that water is taken and recycled, then used for irrigation or in ponds or something on the surface, that's going to help the peripheral Upper Dawson people. And one of the things we did to Independence when they first got approved, or not first because that was Bandera, but as Independence, is that we stipulated that they had to get their water out of the Denver and the Arapahoe. They could not, and I know there's an existing well at that historical building there, but aside from that, anything that goes into their water system has to come from the Denver and the Arapahoe. But the most important part of what I'm saying here, in my mind anyway, is the recharge of the Upper Dawson, because that 40% of the water, and it may be more, maybe a little bit less than that, but that 40% is going to be going into the ground, and over a long time, it will percolate down to that doesn't evaporate, will percolate down to the Upper Dawson. So that should be something that people see as a positive rather than as a negative. Like I said, the big concern I have is Elbert Road, and I would like to have some kind of an understanding that as soon as you utilize that commercial lot or the school lot, or you hit the 920 homes, which are previously approved, that road would be extended.
So on that point, as you can see, access to those sites really is, again, because of intersection spacing, we can't get to it off 158 anyway. So it would make more sense to do that at Platt, where we can kind of show here's what we're thinking and here's kind of how the access.
Yeah, that was my early warning that when you bring the Platt in here, I'm going to be grumpy.
We'll be ready.
No, I just want to say, the first time sitting through this and looking through our stack of papers here, I appreciate the work that staff has put in, the work that the applicant has put in. There's a lot of detail, obviously, concerned about all the details from the water to the roads. Very complete, and really appreciate it, all the work everybody put into it. So I just thank you for putting something together that I could understand.
Got one more question that just occurred throughout this is just, and not holding you to a firm year, but what's your anticipated build out if you get to 1,400 homes? Are we within a decade? Or are we within 10 to 20 years? Just trying to get a feel for, it's easy to look at a map and say, oh my gosh, 1,400 homes are going to be there tomorrow. And things generally don't occur that quickly. But.
Yeah, so to put that in perspective a little bit, filing one had 328 lots. That's been going on since 2018, 2019, and we are 225 into that 328. We're just starting filings 2 and 3, which was another 368 lots. So almost close to half of the 14 there, those two combined. Those are probably a 5 to 7 year build through, so you can kind of see the trending of that. It always is slow, and your comment about the commercial land, the commercial, unless we find a very unique user, they're not going to want to build there and be, way out away from all the housing. They're going to want to, come in as the houses get closer to it. So 10 years is probably reasonable. It could be a little bit longer to finish up, but I'd say we get through most of it in 10 years or so.
I just kind of hate to do public math, but just generally looking at what's constructed and entitled across the county, what you're asking is around a 3.5% increase in housing stock. And if we're looking at just roughly is 10 years because it's easy math.
Yeah.
A third of a percent growth to the entire county annually in one location isn't explosive in any stretch of the imagination. Though I do recognize that changes in an individual neighborhood are changes. Just having heard the testimony and run through the packet and read through all the comments we've gotten, I echo what Dallas had to say. It's a complicated process, and I think staff has done a very good job in pulling it all together. Some of the discussion we heard today from citizens were, does this belong in the area? And frankly, I think that was addressed, that the decision to have growth in that area, and specifically, a large number of homes on that acreage, was made in 2009. That ship has sailed. I do think the platting you brought in I believe it was 2017, much better community design, much better use of the resources than was originally envisioned. I don't think I heard it mentioned, certainly in the packet, and it should be something that everybody in this county is proud of, is that you provide the highest level of recycling of any community in Colorado. If there's any place that should be treasured, it's here in Elbert County, where we pull everything out of the aquifers. So hopefully in the future we move to even higher levels and more reuse. I know the state recently has approved direct reuse, which I'm not asking for, but it's going to be that's a game changer for those that live in the climate we live in. So having looked at the demographers' numbers over the years, Elbert County's grown since it was established, with the exception of the Depression. Growth does happen. Having sat with the state demographer at this table a couple of years ago, she was kind of fond of saying that jobs are people, and houses is where jobs go to sleep at night, and pretty much jobs is what drives growth. It's no mystery that Parker has grown tremendously since Mr. Lopez was mayor. It's providing jobs. Castle Rock has grown tremendously. Denver and Aurora have been pushing their way. The initial growth spurt in the northwest corner of the county began when the tech center went in, because people could commute from a nice quiet area to the new jobs. Those jobs continue to push closer to Elbert. Elbert becomes more of a desirable place to live. It's within commuting distance. I think we heard from community members that have lived here for 1 month to, a lifetime, and are multi-generational, and they have different opinions of of what they're hearing, obviously, but those folks that joined us a month ago seem like fine people. Just the general background that was described, they seem like our people. I mean, as growth happens, and this isn't to the applicant, it's to everybody and those watching, it's on us as citizens and residents to welcome people into our community and ensure that they do feel welcome and that they're part of us, that they don't wall themselves off and become something separate from what we are. There were some comments made about we should be looking at this in terms of other potential projects, and we are bound to judge an application based on that application and how it relates to the standards before us, not how we think it might be impacted by other things. Those other things and how they're impacted and how they all come together are what we have a comprehensive plan for. So that is what kind of provides that overall synchronization of what happens in the county. And that is a planning commission and citizen-driven document so for what it's worth, I think that's worth looking at. I think you addressed the concerns with the one specific criteria. You can always use, is it negatively impacted? Well, if something takes me 30 seconds longer than it did the day before, it's a negative impact, but it's not material. As you said, the fire districts we really have no control over, but they've been coordinated with and they're supportive. School districts supportive and have been coordinated with. The services we provide are generally supported by property taxes, and those property taxes follow the people that move in and buy homes. The human services part, and I know we had some discussion on, I guess, juvenile delinquency and other things, but the human services piece of the county is funded based on our population from the state. That those monies flow to us. So overall, I believe that and agree with Planning Commission and staff and the applicant, obviously, that those criteria that we should judge this application against have been met. So, I don't know, Dallas, if you got anything else to say. Otherwise, I think we're at a point where we could accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the Bandera East and Bandera West PUD amendment to be known as Independence PUD.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve, and that was with the conditions listed as a friendly.
Oh, yes, assuming that the conditions that are that have been presented are accepted.
And there.
Yes, and with the one edit that Mr. Thompson provided in his staff report.
Okay. All right, so just to clarify, the motion is to approve with the conditions that were accepted. Okay. Did we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. So all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. I would accept a motion to close public hearing on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we close public hearing on Bandera East and Bandera West PUD amendment to be known as Independence.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second to close public hearing on this item. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All righty. Well, we've got one more order of business, though. Since, as it was noticed for today, we will open the Metro District hearing, but continue it to tomorrow at 1 p.m. A little bit earlier than I thought we would be tonight, but I think that ensures we have all the people in the room that were planned to present. So with that, I would accept a motion to open public hearing on Independence 3 new and 3 amended metropolitan districts and service plans.
Mr. Chair, I move we open public hearing on Independence 3 new and 3 amended metropolitan districts and service plans.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to open public hearing on Independence 3 new and 3 amended metropolitan districts and service plans. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Alrighty, I would accept a motion to continue this hearing until 1 p.m. on March 9th at this location.
Mr. Chair, I move that we continue this hearing until tomorrow, March 9th, at 1 p.m. at this location on the Independence 3 new and 3 amended Metropolitan Districts and Service Plans.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to continue this hearing until tomorrow at 1 p.m. at this location. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I would accept a motion to close public hearing at this time.
Mr. Chair, I move we close public hearing on Independence 3 new and 3 amended Metropolitan Districts and Service Plans.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close public hearing on this item at this time. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're out of public hearing. There being no more business before us today, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to adjourn today's BOCC meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned.